The floor.
House Bill 1718, as you know, is a bill that is intended to ensure that Virginians who are captive ratepayers of our major utilities will not be obliged to pay for natural gas and those contracts for which they don't get a benefit. They will pay for those for which they get a benefit. My bill doesn't change that. It is set forward for that purpose and that purpose only, and the consumer protection element of the Attorney General's office, as I've mentioned several times before in different circumstances, both the current and the most recent Attorney General support this, sort of an odd couple politically, but they both believe that this is a good bill because it will protect ratepayers, which I think we all ought to be about. I support natural gas and the construction of pipelines to transport the fuel. This infrastructure enables Virginia consumers to benefit from these new technologies and the abundant resources that come from that. And that's no part of this bill. This bill is simply putting in place provisions as to how these contracts will be reviewed and making sure that your neighbors are not paying for gas that they're not benefiting from. Let me mention one other thing. There have been some conversations recently about natural gas, particularly in the Tidewater area and related to the naval station down there. And let me quote this from a Dominion statement recently. Virginia Natural Gas, which serves 300,000 homes and businesses, reported service interruptions, some lasting for as long as 4 days to certain major industrial companies. Again, the reason is simple. There isn't enough capacity in the region's pipelines to keep homes warm and serve manufacturers on the coldest days, and so forth. Now, here's the thing. That's untouched by my bill. Gas utilities are not touched by this bill. This is strictly electric utilities. So the objection that somehow this will diminish the gas from Suffolk, but let me reiterate the point. I'm not sure, I think he may have been conversing with someone else when I mentioned it. This does not affect Virginia Natural Gas. They are not covered in this, even though the gas comes through the same pipeline and they have a share in it because they have a contract for a portion of it, as does Dominion. So this will not affect them. Let me note that the reason we haven't, to my good friend, the gentleman from Scott County, there have not been SCC proceedings on natural gas because it hasn't been brought by the utilities. They will be looking back whether or not this bill passes. They will be looking back. We're simply giving more definition to what they'll be looking at and making sure that the ratepayers are not paying for something that they don't get the benefit from. It's not restrictive. Again, contrary to what you've heard, it simply adds 3 additional items for the State Corporation Commission to consider when they consider that fuel factor proceeding. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I think this bill remains a good one, and I hope members will vote for it.
Shall the bill pass? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 57, noes 40, abstentions 1.
Ayes 57, noes 40, abstentions 1. The bill passes.
House Bill 1735, relating to the creation of the Commission on Student Behavioral Health.
Shall the bill pass?